الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها صدق الله العظيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. Most honorable and respectable ulama kiram, Qurra Hazrat, my honorable teacher and brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Time is of the essence, so without much delay, and not really a speech, but just maybe a few points that I can reflect upon and that I can try pass on to you guys. But before I commence, I want to ask a question: that how many of you want the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your life? If you do, say Subhanallah. Subhanallah. We'll try that once more. If you want the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your life, say Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So just like you, there was an individual who also wanted that connection with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and particularly he was trying to gain the vision of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and night after night he tried, but he failed. So on one occasion he went to his teacher and he asked that, look, I want to have vision of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell me a way. Give me a wazifa. Tell me something to recite. I will do anything it takes. I just want to see the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when I sleep at night. So his teacher said to him, okay, come back tomorrow evening. But when you come to me, don't eat or drink anything before. He became happy, he became glad. And finally I have a way that I will be able to envision the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as per the order, he does not eat, he does not drink. And that following evening he attends at the house of his teacher. And he sees that his teacher has prepared a lavish meal for him. So as per the order of his teacher, he sits and he begins to eat. But he notices that there is plenty of food, but there is no drink. And he's wondering, what is the situation here? Before he begins to eat, the teacher says to him, eat as much as you want. You do not stand from here until you have finished what is in front of you. But the condition is you cannot have a drop of water. So he begins to eat. Again, eagerness, the eagerness to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's this food? He'll have anything at that point. So he begins to eat, and he fills himself up, and he completes everything that is in front of him. But now he begins to realize that whatever was made in such a way that he's quenching for water. He's requiring something to drink, but the condition is he can't have anything to drink. His teacher says to him, now go home, and tomorrow morning come back to me. But the condition is that till you return to me, you cannot have a drop of anything to drink. Now again, he thinks maybe this is the way to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't mind, I'll do it. It's painful, it's difficult. It's fighting against my nafs in a way that my nafs wants water. I need water, but I am depriving myself from water, yet I am in dire need of it. But as per the command and as the love is erupting in his heart to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes home, prays his namaz, goes to sleep without a drop of water. The following morning he wakes up and he goes to his teacher's house. He's confused. He did not have a dream of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The teacher asks him, yes. He goes, look, before I say anything, can I have some water now? He goes, yes. He gave him the water. He quenched his thirst. And his teacher said to him, tell me, how was your night? And he said, by Allah, my night was such that I did not see anything except water. All I saw in my dream was water. And his teacher said to him, there's no wazifa for seeing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you want Rasulullah as much as you want water, he will come to your dream himself. If that's the only message we can take away from today, then so be it. But until we do not want Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in our life, as much as we want these worldly things, or as much as we need water, when we are in dire thirst and need for it, then only then will we be able to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I can stand here and you will hear from the ulama that are yet to come the great aspects of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When you talk about the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you hear Sayyidina Jabir ibn Samura radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said that it was the night of the full moon and it was a clear sky. And I looked at the beautiful face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I looked at the moon, and I looked at the beautiful face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And I looked at the moon, and he says, I came to the conclusion, huwa ahsanu min al-qamari. He is more beautiful than the moon as well. This is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you're looking at the blessed sweat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then you see Sayyidah Sulaym radiyallahu ta'ala anha, that she begins to collect the beads of perspiration of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He awakens and he says, "Ma tasna'ina ya Sulaym? What is it? What is this that you are doing?" And in one narration she says, "O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I take your blessed perspiration and I mix it into our perfumes and they become the most fragrant perfume that we have." And in another narration she says, "We take from your blessed sweat blessings for our children." And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Asabti, what you are doing is right." If you look at the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even when it comes to those who have not accepted Islam, then you look at Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Salam radiyallahu ta'ala, who traveled to Madinatul Munawwara to have a dialogue with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He hadn't accepted Islam at this moment of time. But what does he say? He says, فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنْتُ وَجْهَهُ عَرَفْتُ أَنَّ وَجْهَهُ لَيْسَ بِوَجْهِ كَذَّابٍ. He said, I went there to debate, I went there to have a dialogue with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But when my eyes fell clearly upon the beautiful face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, عَرَفْتُ أَنَّ وَجْهَهُ لَيْسَ بِوَجْهِ كَذَّابٍ. He said, I immediately knew that this cannot be the face of a liar. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. These are different aspects, and we can talk about it all day, all night, all week, all month, and it won't end. But I come back to my first point. That do you want Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as much as that individual wanted water in his night? As much as that individual saw water all night in his dream, because his want for that water was greater for his want than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. How can we gain that closeness to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? That's the question I want to give you. I have come from Halifax. My friend Mawlana Hafiz Muhammad bin Zahid Sahib has accompanied me. If I stand here and say to you, from this second, I want every single person to love him wholeheartedly, you're going to question, and rightly so, that who is he? Why should we love him? We don't know his name, we don't know his father's name, we don't know where he's from, we don't know what he does, we don't know his personality, his characteristics. We have no connection with him whatsoever, so why should we love him? But similarly, do you have that level of knowledge when it comes to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Now, if I ask everyone who loves Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you'll all say we all do. Every single person here will say we love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But how much do you know about him? How much do you actually have knowledge when it comes to the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So take that back from this gathering, that if you don't know about this great man, who is the reason that we are in existence today, then make the intention that you are going to sign up to a course. You are going to go somewhere and study. And more than anything, you've got, very luckily, for me, a very lucky and fortunate blessing, and even more so for you, that you have Mawlana Shabir Sahib Sahib here, who is teaching day and night every individual who comes to his doorstep the deen of Allah and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And believe me, in my experience anyway, that is one of the key ways to gain closeness to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the last few minutes, we live in a time and day and age where we want to know about examples, so that we can say, yeah, it actually works. I'm going to give you an example of a man by the name of Sa'duddin Taftazani, rahimahullah ta'ala. Imam Sa'duddin Taftazani, rahimahullah ta'ala, those who are studying, and the ulama, they know that he's a man of great intellect, a man of great heights of knowledge, a man whose books are not only taught in Dars-e-Nizami, but in fact many of his books are not even able to be studied within the Dars-e-Nizami syllabus. Many conclude Dars-e-Nizami and then are able to study books written by Imam Sa'duddin Taftazani rahimahullah. But he wasn't always Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani, no. In fact, he was known as Balidun Nas, an individual that when you tell him something, whether you give him 10 examples, he won't understand a single thing that you are saying. This was Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani rahimahullah. His teacher, Imam Qutbuddin Razi rahimahullah, he says that whenever something would come up in lesson about a lower form of education, we would compare it to our Sa'aduddin. But what happened? How did he become Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani rahimahullah? But his eagerness, his yearning for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He went home, he opened his books, and he tried learning his sabak, his lesson, his dars for the next day. But nothing was registering with him. He tried, and he closed his book and began crying. And he raised his hand and he said, "Oh Allah, if I am unable to understand what is in these books, it is because you have created me like that. It is not any fault of my own. Oh Allah, help me." Then he would open his books again. And he would begin studying again. And again he would try, and he would try, and he would try. And nothing would register with him. And he would close his books again and raise his hand and say, "Oh Allah, if you have created me like this, it is no fault of my own. Please help me." He would reopen his books. 3 times he did this. And upon the 3rd time, he heard a knock at his door. He waited for a moment to see if it happens again. And he heard a voice. Said, "Oh Taftazani, come out, let's go out." And he says, he replied that Taftazani has not been made to go out and about, he's been made to study, leave him to study. He says, "I began to open my books and I began to study again." And he goes, "I heard it again. That, oh Taftazani, come out, let's go out." And he says, "I replied again that I have not been made to go out, I have been made to study." And he says, "I opened my books and I began to study." He says, "For the 3rd time, I heard that beautiful voice. What was it saying? Oh Taftazani, come out. I am the same Muhammad you are studying about." He says, "I was shocked and amazed. And in this moment he had no sandals, no shoes, no footwear upon his feet." He said, "I immediately went to the door and I opened the door and I saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood there." He said, "I approached the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I was amazed. I did not know what to do. I stood in my place. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, 'Oh Taftazani, come close and open your mouth.' I went close, I opened my mouth. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam placed his blessed saliva in my mouth, closed my mouth and said, 'Oh Taftazani, go and study now.' He said, 'I studied all night. When I went the following morning to my lesson, I was able to answer questions no other student was able to answer.'" You don't have to be the most bright and most intelligent individual. And I will tell you this. But what you need to be is dedicated. What you need to be is committed. That man, I bring you back to the first point. He wanted to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his dream. He went to his teacher and asked for a wazifa. His teacher gave him food, said, "Go home, sleep, do not drink anything and come back to me the following morning." And when he came back the following morning, he described that in his night, all he saw was water. And his teacher told him, "There is no wazifa for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's vision. The wazifa is this, that when you want him as much as you wanted water, he will enter your dream himself sallallahu alayhi wa sallam." So that is what I'm going to leave you with. That leave this gathering today, feeling that you now want to become closer to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I always say this, that when your deen becomes your want, everything will become easy for you. And my honorable father, alayhi rahmah, he would always say this to me. From a young age, he would say this to me, until today I remember it, that go after the deen and the dunya will come after you. And I will end with the kalam of Sayyidi A'la Hazrat Imam Ahmad Riza rahimahullah ta'ala, just as barakat. But I want every person to recite collectively with me so that we can conclude upon this. Phirke gali gali tabaa, phirke gali gali tabaa, ठोकर सब की खाए क्यों, दिल को जो अक़ल दे खुदा, तेरी गली से जाए क्यों. Another summary of what I have said. वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था, वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो. दिखाए क्यों, दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा, तेरी गली से जाए क्यों. I pray Allah Ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to act upon what has been said, and if I have said anything wrong, Allah Ta'ala forgive me. Wa akhiru da'waya alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.